can be tricky. This isn't just a one size fits all. It's making mild adjustments over time until it's optimized. And when it is, it's like the light going off. People are like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better now. Yeah. So it's really amazing to see the transformation.
Welcome to Look Good, Feel Good with Matt and Amy McKinley, the podcast where we bring you expert advice and honest, real talk on health, wellness, and feeling your absolute best. From hormone optimization to aesthetics and everything in between, we're here to help you live your best life. Let's dive in.
Hello, welcome. You're listening to Look Good and Feel Good with Matt and Amy. I'm Matt.
And I'm Amy.
Awesome.
We thought we'd do it different today.
Yeah. Change it up. Keep it spicy.
So this is a show where we talk about what's really happening inside your body, how to fix it naturally. And so if you're someone who feels great in the morning and by 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're just crashing. And you're like starting to fall asleep at your desk. You're reaching for caffeine. I know you've all felt like this because I have at times too.
Oh yeah, we all have. Absolutely. But it's fixable.
It is very fixable.
Naturally.
So this episode's for you. That's what we're going to be talking today. So that midday slump, it's one of the biggest complaints we hear at our clinic. By 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you feel kind of sleepy and sluggish. So it's almost always tied to thyroid, cortisol, your DHEA levels. It's not just about how much sleep you get at night or what you had for lunch.
Right. And so our bodies run in a rhythm. So let's talk about rhythm, Amy.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things where you get a rise and fall of hormones throughout the day. In the morning, your cortisol levels are much higher. That's what wakes you up and gets your brain moving, you get going. But cortisol gently starts to kind of go down as the day wears on. And DHEA kind of helps to taper, or it starts to buffer and keep your energy steady.
Yeah, it's almost like it balances it. It keeps that balance in.
But when those rhythms get out of sync, you stay from stress, lack of sleep, protein, thyroid dysfunction. You feel it as that classic afternoon crash. And so you get tired, you're unfocused, you're maybe a little irritable. Your brain starts to negotiate, whether you want a nap or not. And so that's kind of what happens.
Yeah, it's super common. And I always joke around, if you're falling asleep at your desk or at work, it's not that you're lazy, but your hormones have clocked you out early. So I am the prime example. You can ask medical assistants that have worked with me through the years. Midday, they would look over at me, and if I wasn't in a room seeing a patient, I would nod off all the time. Like just my head would come down, and I'd.
This is before he was on hormone optimization.
Yeah, this is the past 20 years though, and I always thought, it's just because I work really hard and I'm tired, but it wasn't. In fact, my medical assistant would come over and say, "Hey, Matt, are you asleep?" And I'd always say, "No, I'm just meditating." I love to meditate. So, but no, I was crashing, and it happens to both men and women. But when I found out it was really my hormones that were off, including thyroid, DHEA, and cortisol levels, fixing that made a world of difference in just having that juice all day long instead of crashing at 2 or 3 o'clock, which is super common.
Yeah, very true. We're going to talk a little bit about thyroid and how the thyroid gland sets your metabolic pace. When your thyroid is sluggish, everything starts to slow down. Your energy, digestion, focus, body temperature, your thyroid hormone, or even when it's slightly low, your cells just can't make enough ATP. So this is going back to biology days in your mitochondria and your cells. The energy, ATP is the energy currency for your body. That's why people describe feeling foggy, or they feel like they're moving like molasses, just very slow. So
their brain too.
Yeah, their brain fog, kind of that we use that word brain fog a lot, and that's just kind of like because you feel just slow. You don't know why. It's usually thyroid. So if you're feeling kind of that way, you're kind of dragging in the afternoon, afternoon, we checking your thyroid is very important. And the way we check it, the way we were taught is just to look at TSH, but we know better now. So looking at free T3, free T4, we do look at TSH, but we just don't look at just TSH.
And TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone. It's a signal from the brain to the thyroid to make thyroid.
Yeah. So, and then when that happens, the thyroid releases T4. T4 circulates through the blood to convert into the liver to T3. And T3 is what actually your cells use for energy. So when we talk about ATP, mitochondria, T3 is what your cells are actually using.
Yeah, and a lot of times people are told their thyroid is normal, quote unquote. Your thyroid is normal. Well, it may be in a normal range, but it's actually hanging on by a thread. So labs help us so much to understand this, but even more than that is understanding how the thyroid works. And as we test these levels, and we get a test every 6 months, oftentimes we'll see them decline as people age. For example, a T3 might be at 3.8, and then we see it drop to 3.3 and then 2.5. This could happen over 6 months or a year and a half. Well, guess what? That thyroid now is not doing its job properly, even if it's considered in a normal range. Getting those levels up really helps restore energy, restore brain fog, and get people feeling better. And it can be tricky. This isn't just a one size fits all. It's making mild adjustments over time until it's optimized. And when it is, it's like the light going off. People are like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better now. Yeah. So it's really amazing to see the transformation.
So let's talk a little bit about cortisol and DHEA. These two are like teammates. They balance each other out. Cortisol gets you moving. We talked about that in the morning. It starts to, your brain produce a little more, you're having more cortisol produced. DHEA smooths those edges out, so stress doesn't burn you out. But chronic stress, is and lack of sleep or over exercising can deplete DHEA. Not enough hormones. That's when that happens. What is cortisol can spike really early in the day and then crash later, leaving you kind of feeling yucky and feeling exhausted and just very, very tired. So cortisol testing requires multiple sampling testing. Usually the best way to do that is through saliva testing. And we don't do cortisol testing. What we do is we look at DHEA levels as proxy to assess adrenal function. So low DHEA tells us your adrenals are tired, and it often shows up as that afternoon brain fog, fatigue, decreased motivation. That's kind of what we look for.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things is stress. So our body undergoes stress all the time, and we think of stress, a lot of us, as meeting deadlines, having things to do, places to go, things to get done, chasing kids, chasing grandkids. All of those things bring on stress. But there's also physiologic stress that our systems are going through, okay? So that stress over time, or let's call it chronic stress, is what really breaks down your systems and makes you feel tired and weak and crashes your mood levels or puts you in a bad mood. Let's just say it. Sometimes we're in a bad mood. It's because a lot of times cortisol levels have crashed. And a lot of times people that work out a lot also get low DHEA levels because they're constantly beating up their systems, not just muscles, but they're beating up their physiologic systems. So DHEA is huge. It's very important to really regulate systems. And a lot of people need to be at a higher DHEA level to feel good so they can regulate that cortisol. Cortisol also, you'll see a lot of people with truncal obesity, and that's a big culprit is cortisol. So getting that managed with DHEA plays a big role. So I like to give a sports analogy, as you've heard in a lot of things. It's kind of my thing. But DHEA is like a quarterback. It has a job. A quarterback has a job. He knows the play. He knows how it needs to work. But he also has to know what the rest of his team is doing to be effective. DHEA's primary job is to control cortisol levels, but it also helps optimize the rest of your hormones to get everything in balance so you feel better. So most men and women feel much better with a higher DHEA level than you see on paper or reference ranges, I should say.
Yeah. So let's talk about what you can do right now to smooth out that midday dip and feeling tired. We talk a little bit about, with our patients, we talk a little bit about intermittent fasting and why it's so important in establishing, and we'll talk a little bit about what intermittent fasting, let's talk about intermittent fasting. Typically what it means, for me, it means I skip breakfast or eat a later breakfast. So eating from 11 a.m. and stop eating around 7:30, that's kind of my eating window. And then I have a fasting window from 7:30 to 11 o'clock the next day. So that's when I don't eat. And why we do that is because it helps to regulate insulin and helps to regulate cortisol and your DHEA and all of those things. But what we do say is during that eating window that you're eating higher protein and lower carbs and eating good proteins. Fats are good proteins too. There's some good fats out there. We all think that fat's bad, but it's not. You have to have fat in your diet too. So avoiding heavy carb only lunches, combined protein, fiber, good fats, support your thyroid and DHEA through hormone optimization, appropriate, consistent dosing and nutrients like selenium, vitamin C, zinc, all of those things work really well to help support.
Yes, and remember this, food is the most powerful drug of anything we take into our body. Food is the most powerful drug. I learned this when I was actually bodybuilding, when I was just in tune with everything I took into my body. When you get into really good shape, you notice the differences a lot more. You can take good foods, good proteins into your body and notice a difference. And if you go and eat, let's just call it junk or crap, you feel bad almost instantly. Amy experienced this as well, but food is the most powerful drug. Now, aside from food, oftentimes we need other supplementation. Amy was mentioning vitamins and minerals and things that we need to optimize our health. We have a really, really good, it's called an AM/PM multivitamin. It's got a morning formula that optimizes energy and mental focus, and a PM formula that really optimizes sleep and cell repair. So it's getting all the proper vitamins and minerals at the proper times to optimizing your health. And I will say this, people that start that rarely go off. We had a good friend that had to have a surgery. She went off the AM/PMs, and prior to her surgery, she said, hey, I want you to tell your clients it makes a difference, because she was forced to go off and she noticed a difference within a few days.
When to consider hormone optimization, if you've tried all lifestyle tweaks, and you still feel wiped out, it's time to look a little deeper. And when it comes to thyroid and DHEA, when you get them balanced, it's amazing what it can do for you. We see patients in their 30s and 40s and 50s and above. And, they thought being exhausted was just part of getting older. And, once we balance those hormones and get those, their energy, their focus, their joy comes flooding back in. And I can remember even when I suffered with low thyroid and was, able to get myself optimized onto the level that I needed, how much energy, it's kind of amazing how much better you do feel when your thyroid is optimized. And there's so many women out there that suffer from low thyroid, but don't get treated because we look at their TSH and their TSH is normal. But when you look at their T3 levels, they're in the 2s and not getting the energy and what they need to feel good. It's metabolism. It's everything. Thyroid is everything. And so getting on thyroid and getting your levels up, sometimes you feel better outer range on thyroid. And I start a lot of women and men on thyroid just because they need it. They feel better on it. It's not that they are hypothyroid or hyperthyroid or have any type of autoimmune disease. It's because people feel better on thyroid because it's energy, it's metabolism.
It is, and it's becoming one of our most favorite parts of this work is really getting people into balance. All of a sudden they realize they're not broken. You are not broken. You're just out of rhythm. And helping restore that rhythm changes your life. Getting to the foundation, the base of the problem and fixing that versus chasing symptoms. It's like, let's get to the base and fix the base. Everything falls into place after that. And then the body naturally starts to take care of itself. You get into a natural hormonal rhythm like you did when you were young and feeling feeling good. And it's like flipping a switch. It's like turning on the light bulb and seeing the world through color again versus darkness.
Yeah. So the takeaway is simple. That afternoon crash, it's your body trying to communicate. It's not lack of willpower. It's a hormonal imbalance between your thyroid, cortisol, and DHEA. So listen to your body, feed it well, rest it, and when necessary, get your hormones checked. So thank you for listening today with Matt and Amy, and we appreciate y'all, and keep on looking and feeling good. Thank you.
Thank you.